Right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. And again, or good evening. My name is Margie McLean. I am the founder and CEO of the Margie McLean Foundation, where we are cultivating, fostering future leaders for the 21st century and beyond. The purpose of the organization, of course, is for us to make sure that we motivate in our youth as well as their families as well. And we wanted to hear from our youth. A lot about what our kids are going through. So I just basically want to hear from our kids. So we started this Teen Talk my YouTube channel, Margie McLean Foundation. Please subscribe and also hit the bell to get notifications of new video. So before we get started, I want everyone to introduce themselves, and then I'm going to introduce the Margie McLean Foundation. And after that, we are going to go ahead and get started with our discussion on teen suicide prevention. So we're going to start with Mr. McKinney.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alexandra McKinney. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm 37 years old, and I am a sibling of someone who committed suicide at a young age. They weren't necessarily a teenager, but early 20s, but I was a teenager. So I know all about it.
Thank you so much, and our condolences. We move next to Ms. Rosalind Pinto.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much, Mrs. McLean, for this opportunity. So my name is Rosalind Rodriguez Pinto. I am a licensed clinical social worker associate. I practice Precious Haven Inc. And I treat individuals of all ages. Well, I should have said of all ages. I like around like 6 years old and on. And I have worked with different clients that have different diagnoses, from depression to schizophrenia. So I see a little bit of everything.
Thank you. Next, we have, I think this is Wonderful Davidson, if they would like to introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Miss Wonderful Davidson, and I'm from Vacaville, California. I am a Christian author. I'm a youth advocate and a fundraiser. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. And next, we have one of our board members, Ms. Sabrina Mackey. She can give us a little bit about herself as well and her company.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sabrina Mackey. I am the CEO of Refocus to Redefine LLC, where we help individuals just deal with basic everyday life situations that they can't handle on their own. I specialize in loss and grief, suicide prevention, among a plethora of other things. Also, my professional career is I am a traveling social worker. I am currently licensed in North Carolina as a licensed clinical social worker, and in the state of Maryland, I work in a behavioral health hospital. So I deal with people who have attempted suicide, who actually have suicidal ideations, depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, and I'm also a family member of someone who died death by suicide.
All right, thank you so much. And we just had Ms. Stutterman come in, if she would like to introduce herself as well. Stutterman? No, she's there.
Give me one second.
Oh, go ahead. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and introduce the Margie McLean Foundation. Again, my name is Margie McLean, founder of the Margie McLean Foundation, and the purpose again of this organization is to make sure that we move our team to the next level and see if we can make sure that we save lives before it's too late. And so we want to be able to talk about the topics that most people do not want to talk about. So before we get started, what I plan to do is to just go ahead and introduce the Margie McLean Foundation. Okay. Well, we're going to move on because I'm not right now the host. So we're going to move on real quick. And so let's just go ahead and get started. So Ms. Sturtevant, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Brooksy Sturtevant. I work with Lake County Schools. I also have an LLC called 3E LLC. I'm the author of 2 books career educator. I think this is my 23rd year. And I just love all things intervention and helping kids in need. So thank you for hosting this timely event. And hello to everyone else.
Thank you. And I will say that she has a book of poems that our organization was able to win. And so we will be working with our youth with her poem book. So hopefully at the end, she can tell us a little bit about her book as well as Miss Mackey. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So we do know suicide is one of the biggest leading cause of deaths amongst our teenagers. I would say just recently, the first week or second week of my school year, we had, this year actually, we had a young man who, committed suicide in the school bathroom. And it's just the second week of school. And so, that blew my mind, like what could have happened in 2 weeks of school that would have a young man to do that. And of course, we, as things, the words started coming out and, things started developing, we found out that this student was being bullied. And so, as this process, I think it's just best for us to sometimes teach our teachers, our parents, community leaders, even our faith-based leaders, what are some signs? How can we tell? What are the red flags? And also, what are some ways that we can prevent this from happening? So as we move, we want to talk about the cause. And so my question is, the suicide rate is highest among our mid-teens. And what do you think the reason is for this? And what is the difference between this time in a person's life or when they get older? So let's go with this. I'm gonna start with Miss Rosalind.
So I believe whenever you're talking about the warning signs, right? I think that first, I would like to talk to parents. Parents are actually the experts on their children. So I think most of the time, especially in this society, we work very, very long hours. Most parents work very long hours. And so what happens is that there is a break in communication. So whenever the parent comes home or whatever, the child is in the tablet, cell phone, or playing video games or something like that. And so they are not constantly communicating with that child. And most of the time, even though, what the statistic says, 81% of the time, the child has already told somebody, about their suicidal ideations and their plans to commit suicide. What I have found is that most of the time is their closest friends, not their parents that they talk to. So I think establishing that relationship with your child is very, very important. And then also you have to look at, children that have had someone close to them that have committed suicide. And then also children that you could see that there might be an undiagnosed mental health illness. Also to look at environmental factors, such as has there been a divorce in the family? Are they going through, a relationship breakup, of their own? Are there financial difficulties? And I think whenever we're looking at that, we can look especially at the Black and Hispanic community, that most of our population have been greatly affected by this pandemic. And so I think, so those are like some of the things to look out for.
Thank you. I'm gonna piggyback real quick before we move on to another panelist. I will say one of the things that we noticed when you brought up the pandemic, when we was quarantined, we noticed, and even with myself, we noticed that a lot of our children was having social emotional issues being home, not being at school. For some of them, just going to their school is a way for them to interact with others. They can get away from life at home, get away from, their siblings that may get on their nerves every day or what so have you. Now you have them in the same situation that they probably freedom for them. And so we started seeing a lot of mental health cases increase in our youth. Different children authors come in and talk to our students and just read to them, and just getting them in the love of books. And of course I send the books out, but we noticed that with these kids, they have been developing a lot better. They come on, they know each other, and I'm hoping that it actually continue. So moving to Ms. Sabrina Mackey.
I'm gonna say sometimes you don't see any warning signs because it's just so fast. It's just so quick. Nobody picks up on them. But then there's the warning signs of you have to dig a little bit deeper of an underlying issue. Did something happen to the child? Did maybe something drastic happen to the child or within the family dynamics? Mood, are they being isolated when they are normally bubbly and talking and outgoing? Kind of watch them. If they start trying to isolate themselves, go into their room, don't want to do any more family activities, don't go out with any friends or anything, watch those. A declining grades when they're in school, or even just attitude. Did their attitude change? Did they go from being a good kid to a bad kid? Or sometimes if they were maybe like classified as a bad child, then they started being good and doing great things, because sometimes by working with individuals who have attempted, they said that they, changed their attitude. Some people would give things away. They would start giving things away, saying goodbye subtly, trying to make amends with people that they had disagreements with. So it's a very, the mind is very tricky and it's very delicate. So a lot of the statistics show that you do have some warning signs, and then you don't have some warning signs. But as a parent, your child. Pretty much better than anybody else. And I tell people with me, if I get quiet, then y'all need to start asking questions, because I'm a talker. So if my friends and family ever know that I get quiet, they know they need to check on me. And then it's just with society the way today, the children and the teenagers, they have to go through so much of peer pressure and learning, what do I fit in at this age? And now we deal with a lot of gender identities. Kids are trying to figure out who they are. And then we want to put a label on everything. We don't know if they're being bullied, because sometimes the kids don't talk. But we need to make it a safe space so they can talk to their teachers in school as well as their parents as well. Margie, you're on mute.
Sorry. Moving to Ms. McKinney, can you give us kind of insight? Because I know you said you had a sibling who committed suicide. What were some of the things you saw or didn't see that you wish you would have saw? If you can give us kind of like an insight to that.
Honestly, there weren't any signs for me. I was 17. My brother was 21. We were 4.5 years apart. He was a new dad. Our family dynamic had changed. Our parents had got divorced 2 years prior to the date that he committed suicide. And honestly, if he was communicating with other people, he wasn't showing it to me because my brother was the clown. Like, he's gonna make everybody happy. He's gonna check on everybody. It was just one day he got upset, and like the chain of events that happened was in a 24-hour period. He was older. He did work a lot, but he spent time with his family and his friends a lot. He didn't really stay to himself. He had just bought a new car. He had his own place. He's working a good job. He had just got hired at this really popular warehouse in Charlotte called Lance. I'm pretty sure everybody's had Lance cookies and crackers and things like that. So at that time, he was making good money. He had a child. His son was 11 months old. And it was a Sunday afternoon, and he had words with my father. And the next day, we all were calling because he was supposed to bring me some money to school because I was the baby. So anytime I would need something, he would look out. So I needed money for a track uniform, and he promised me he would bring the money to me. And every morning he would come to my mom's house, and he had a Rottweiler. He would walk his dog, but he didn't live with us. But he'll come every morning. He'll walk his dog, and he'll wash his car faithfully. So that morning he didn't come walk his dog, and he didn't come to wash his car. So my mom was just like, well, maybe he's busy because, him and your dad had words last night. So maybe he just don't want to be bothered. So we were calling him. I'm calling him from school. He would have picked up. Mom was calling him. Dad's calling him. We're all calling him. Other family members might have been calling him too. I'm not really sure. So my dad asked his sister to go and check on my brother because where we live at, it's like North Carolina and South Carolina. They're like 10 minutes apart. But my brother lived in South Carolina, and we lived in North Carolina. So my aunt, she goes to his home, and she finds the note taped up on the door, but she can't go in because it's a different state. She had to call. She came back to North Carolina to where we lived at, told the police they had to identify the police in the state that he was living in. And they couldn't even go in. They had to wait till someone in the family that had access to the home could come. But during all of this time of us calling him, he barricaded himself in his home. So he didn't want anybody to get in. They had to break into his home to find him. But honestly, for me at 17, he was my brother. I didn't see any signs there. Anyone else did. He didn't communicate those things with me. So, but from this situation, there's been a lot of things that I have noticed because I have 3 teenage children, 14, 15, and 17. And my 17-year-old, he battles with basically borderline schizophrenia. And then I have a child that's 14, and he just came out that he was gay. So I'm always asking questions. And sometimes my youngest son, he'll be like, Mom, you're asking too many questions. But I ask a lot of questions because I can tell when their mood shift. I can tell when they don't want to be bothered because my kids, they do interact. They're very friendly. They always want to be around other people. They have their groups of friends, but when they don't want to be bothered, I'm in their business. Like, did something happen? My oldest son, he's becoming a man. He'll be 18 his birthday. He has a girlfriend. I can always tell when his mood shifts because he don't want to be bothered, but he stays in the bed a lot. And I'm like, why are you in the bed in the dark room? Like, I can tell when you don't want to be bothered or you had a bad day because you're in the bed. But, the way that you keep your space is a sign for me. If you are cluttered all the time, I feel like you don't want to be bothered. You don't care how life is unraveling. But to me, when you don't keep your area and your space clean, I feel like you're spiraling. When you let your grades slip, my son is a straight A student, and he can go for a whole semester and not do any homework and come back and pull out A's and B's when you could have just did that during school. But I know that since he's getting ready to become an adult, that he's up and down. He's hot or cold all the time. So I'm always asking questions. My daughter, she's bubbly. I can always tell when she's had a bad day because her mood will be like, she'll snap. But I'm always in their business. I'm always asking questions because we didn't have that time to ask those questions. I think with my older brother, he kept a lot of stuff to himself. So when he's around our family, he's happy. We would have never, like the way that it happened, I feel like we would have never known because he just didn't show us that side. If he was depressed, it was never, I can't hear you, you're on mute.
So why do you think it's so hard for teens or for parents or for family members?
With teenagers now, I just feel like at the time when my brother committed suicide, that conversation wasn't talked about, especially from where we're from. I think when my brother was in high school and middle school, it was only one person that committed suicide, and it was by huffing. And that, my brother's older than me, so that would have been like the late 90s when that was brought to our attention. But growing up, the death rate where we were from was from teenagers driving too early, getting their license early, having a car accident. We didn't lose people like that. So it wasn't really a conversation. Now, I think about the world, all these teenagers, if you look at teenagers, they are more mature than the average teenager would have been 15 years ago. They feel like they have to be an adult. They look different. They talk different. They move different. They want things that teenagers, when I was growing up, we didn't even think about having. We just wanted a driver's license. They want $1,000 cars, $1,000 shoes. Like, they want to keep up with everything. And I know it has to do a lot with social media, because they have like YouTube, Instagram personalities that are 9, 10 years old making thousands of dollars. So I know now it's like everybody's trying to keep up with everybody. But it's the time and it's a place for everything. I feel like you don't need to rush to be a teenager. You should be enjoying it. But I know they have a lot of peer pressure. So now I think when kids do things like that, it's like they feel like it's the end of the world and they don't have any time to change, or things can't get better when they really can.
So, Miss Rosalind, I know one of the things she brought up was about is being difficult. I know, especially just talking about it in our community, the African American community. It's just something that we didn't talk about. Even mental health, we didn't talk. We just started really talking about that within maybe the last couple of days. Can you give us kind of an insight about, is suicide really spoken about in the Latino community?
Not really. It's kind of like taboo, and I'm not going to speak for the whole Latin community, but I am going to speak about my family. And so mental health is a kind of like a taboo topic. So if somebody is diagnosed with a mental health illness, or somebody has to be hospitalized, because of a mental health illness, then it's more like, I don't want to say swept under the rug, but it's more like, okay, well, if you teach your child, our values and what you have learned in our culture, and root yourself in God, because most of us are Christians, then you're going to be okay. And the reason why I say that is because I had a very personal experience. In 2019, my 16-year-old, at that time, since she was about 13 years old, she attempted to commit suicide. And so whenever I let my family know, was like, okay, well, I let my immediate family know. It was like, okay, well, don't tell anybody else. Tell them that that she's sick in the hospital, but don't tell them. You don't want them to know that, so it was kind of like hush hush.
So I think that's kind of like for both communities, we think about is the same thing a little bit, what we kind of grew up with. We just didn't talk is how can we bring this topic more in our religious settings and be able to talk about these things. So does getting psychological help or treatment have a stigma associated to it? I mean, just even talking about that in the community, that, just going to a therapist or saying that I need help. I hear something in my head talking. Does that carry a stigma, Sabrina?
Can I say something?
It does. Ms. McKinney wanted to speak. I'll let her go ahead.
Go ahead.
It does carry a stigma because a lot of kids, they feel like people will think that they're crazy. Like I said, I have an older son that's been dealing with this for a long time, and he doesn't live in the home with me. So for a long time, I didn't know. I thought at times that he just acted out because he wanted attention. And sometimes he does, But sometimes I know that these are things that he's been experiencing for his whole life. Um, when he has outbursts and is hospitalized, it makes him feel really shame. Like he doesn't want anybody to know. I think that people have looked at him different for being hospitalized, but I've even been hospitalized before. I've had thoughts of depression and I was kind of embarrassed. I mean, my job, they did know I was younger, probably 25. And my job did know, but I didn't want my coworkers to know. I didn't mind my boss knowing, but I didn't know if she would tell my coworkers. But it kind of, the environment that we are in, it's like you don't, sometimes now it's not so bad, but because it's brought some the attention more. But sometimes it's like if you want to talk to somebody or you're having these problems, like something's wrong with you. And it's not always that something's wrong with you, but our society sometimes makes it feel like if you're having a problem or you're in a mood or you need to talk to somebody or you feeling depressed or like you're not feeling your best, that you're crazy. And a lot of times when you feel like that, you don't want to tell anybody because you feel like people will shame you or look down on you. So I think like with our society, a lot of times it is a big stigma because you don't want to talk about certain things because you don't want people to treat you different.
Absolutely. There is a stigma, especially within the African American community, and various cultural competency communities that I deal with, Latino, the African community itself, because it's kind of, I'm going to say, swept up under the rug. What go on in the house, stay in the house. You don't talk about it. They feel like the average population I deal with, they are Christians. They can take it to the Lord and leave it there. However, you can pray, but you need sometimes medication management and a therapist to assist you in getting the help you need. And I try to tell people in the faith-based community as well as in my professional community, it's okay to have a therapist. It's okay to talk to somebody. It's okay to not be okay. Don't carry the weight of yourself. We have a lot of former patients have been doctors and lawyers, high functioning. You would think they have everything in the world going for them, and they're just sad. They're not healthy. And social media can be good and social media can be bad. I've had patients that tell me that, well, my life isn't as good as it should be from what I see my friends or former colleagues or former people I went to high school with or college with. They're doing better in life than I am. And I have to let them know social media is just that, social. People will let you see what they want you to see. And a lot of the things are made up. So you have to disconnect yourself. Stop looking at social media so much. Limit the time that you're on social media because it's just a show. That's just what it is. It's social. It's for entertainment purposes. It can be good, like what we're doing now is good, getting the awareness out. But sometimes people live these false lives on social media trying to keep up with the Joneses. And it's really putting a damper on people's lives. It's making people depressed. Sometimes, even when COVID happened, I stopped watching TV because I got tired of seeing the death numbers rising. And someone said, why did you stop looking at TV? I said, well, if I wanted to know anything, I can go on social media. I can see it. I'll get an update from an email or something, because then I was beginning to get depressed. I was dealing with loss and grief of people I didn't know because of the pandemic. So you have to disassociate you have to disconnect sometime from the social media. You have to do a timeout. That's part of self-care, unplugging. If you're on a computer all day at work, why would you want to come home and pick up the computer and be on the phone? So I've even done it myself. I've started limited my time that I'm on the phone and social media. Mm-hmm. And at 5 o'clock on my ride from work to home, I talk to anybody I need to talk to because then my phone is going on do not disturb. because I talk with mental health patients every day. I have to disengage. I have to disconnect. I have to unplug, because if not, one snap, I could be on my unit that I'm on. But the thing is, we have a lot of corporate individuals. When I say high functioning depression is real, it's very real.
Yeah.
And we mask it because we keep ourselves so busy, and we do everything for everybody else. And then when it's time for us to do something for ourselves, we just kind of like freeze, and we can't do it. And then we unravel, and then we start to fall apart.
So we have Ms. Jones and Ms. Davison and Ms. Sturdivant. We have another guest on. If you would like to say anything, please let us know. Just come off and give any feedback that you have. I would say for me, 2020 was one of the worst years of my life. My first January, I lost my grandmother. 30 days after that, I lost a sister. And then March of 2020, I lost my father unexpectedly. And when I mean unexpected, that means saw him one day, went home to Durham, and next thing I know, they telling me that my father is dead. And one of the things that bothered me was the fact that, we always have I wish I could have, I should have, things like that. And so with that being said, I just felt like, I was a daddy's girl. So that was one of the biggest things, just being able to lose my father like that. And I didn't want to be here anymore. Didn't really talk about it because I'm having these feelings. And so a lot of times that is hard to be able to tell. I think one of the questions that I had earlier was, why is it so hard? A lot of times we put on this mask that we go through things every day, and we just don't want people to know. And we just keep digging a hole deeper and deeper and deeper. And after 2 years, I would say for me, I finally decided to go ahead and get a therapist. But I put all of my depression and things in my work, in my organization. But then when I'm by myself, then I'm depressed, crying, things like that. And so it was just a lot going on. And then on top of other family members that died years after that, I had, more, it was just like every year after that, I had family members that passed. On top of what Sabrina said, looking at the news and turning the news, someone is passing, someone is gone, this, and I literally stopped watching the news. And so, we just have to make sure that we get that help and make sure it's not a stigma. It's okay to get the help that you need. Ms. Jones, do you have anything you would like to say? Or?
Yes, I did want to say that the stigma is real with juveniles. I was listening to Mrs. McKinney story about her brother, and we have even in juvenile detention, we see it's more kids that are locked up that have mental health issues than are actually delinquent. And I think a lot of it, we had one mama say, "Oh, ain't no wrong with him, blah, blah, blah. He's not doing this." And this boy clearly told us, I'm hearing voices, or I'm doing this, or this is making me do this. He looks legit to me. But before we even, okay, we got to get your guardian consent, because with this age, he was like, well, I don't know about that because she's not going to hear it. I already tried. And he was right. We called mom cusses out. I was like, ain't nothing wrong with the boy. But he would have tremors. He would be having full conversations with himself and didn't want to do anything about it. On the flip side of that, we have to give kids resources that we have contracts with, so that if they feel like they need to talk to anybody, we have a contract with the local mental health building that are on standby for 24 hours. So we always let them know you have somebody to talk to. Even if you don't want to talk to them, you can talk to us. That's our job, to sit and talk with you. But it's some kids that they'll tell you, all right, what do I need to talk to somebody for? I ain't crazy. Or when they come back from court and they're upset, we always ask, is there somebody you want to talk to? Do you want to talk to somebody? Even coming back from court, are getting off the phone. Like certain conversations we don't even allow kids to have with their parents. Oh, little JoJo died today. Sometimes we don't get a warning. They'll say, "Oh, your dad died today. Oh, grandma died." And I'm like, stuff like that should not be on the phone. We should have mental health on standby near with us so that as soon as the news like that is given, or chaplain or something, they can have, somebody to talk to. But one thing I noticed is that when kids see other kids talking, that makes them want to talk, or they'll feel comfortable. The same ones that didn't want to do it, they'll feel comfortable to talk about it. But we had one who wanted to end it all, and mom pretty much just got on the phone and was like, "Hey, you cut it out. Ain't nothing wrong with you. Don't do this, don't do that. You're just doing it because you're in jail, or this, and that." And I feel like sometimes the kids feel safe when they're with us. When we bring in the programs and make them aware of everything, and that, there is assistance for whatever the case may be. They feel comfortable. They feel like, oh, I'm in a safe place. Let's do it. The problem comes with the parents, trying to get the parents to be on board to see that, maybe little Johnny isn't making this up, or maybe it couldn't hurt that once he go home, you can link him to certain services. So I do believe sometimes family being, what's the word? It is a stigma because they're worried about what everyone says and what everyone does. But I had a juvenile tell me herself that her mom was schizophrenic. Her grandma was schizophrenic, bipolar, and she figured she was lucky that it never came to her. But she also said when mom kicked her out, she started doing a little, street work, and she was offered cocaine. And once she started taking the cocaine, she said she feel like now she's also a part of what everyone else had. She said she took it a few times, she stopped, but even after taking it, and the withdrawals have been, out her system, she now, she feel like she's full blown schizophrenic. And we always tell them that drugs make stuff like that worse. You know what I mean? So I do agree with all of it.
And I would like to add something, Ms. Jones. I like that you pointed out the fact that a lot of the juveniles that are, in prison right now, I don't know what they call it, juvenile detention, that they have mental health issues. And what I have learned going through my own journey with my adolescents is that there's a huge disconnect between, like all of the services that we offer, right? And the help that your child needs. The reason why I say that is my 16-year-old that I shared with you guys that tried to commit suicide in 2019. we went through some things, and so because I work in this field, and because I work with children that have similar backgrounds and diagnoses, I know I know the signs, and I know how it can increase the behavior and everything. And come to find out after I reach out to everyone, Alliance, CPS, DSS, the school, everything. I went to everybody. What it boiled down to is that my child had to commit some type of, she had to break the law, basically, for her to get the assistance that she needed. And so it got so bad to the point that she tried to kill me. And so when that happened, then it was like, okay, so we opened it for the assault. And I told them, okay, can we get the help now? Can we get the help now? I have done everything you guys said to do. Can we get the help now? Because she's a danger to herself. And she's a danger to others. Can we get the help now? And they said, well, let's go ahead and try this one more, let's go ahead and try this for us. It's not gonna work. We have been doing this since 2018. I am a mental health professional. I'm telling you, we need the help because it's going to get worse before it gets better because she has not received the help that she needs. I show them evaluations after evaluations and recommendations that all said this child needed to be in a PRTF. And they kept telling, no, we have to go through the steps. Well, it got to the point where she tried to kill me, where she was trying to coerce her sister into committing suicide.
Wow.
And then at that point, I say, I can't do this anymore. She was trying to get to enough, so she could stab me. She tried to strangle me. She tried to get her sister to put a bag over her head so she could kill herself. I can't do this anymore.
Wow.
And at that point, DSS turned and said, well, you are being neglectful because you're not trying to help her.
Oh, wow.
So why do we have to get to the point where there is, and my next point was, do you guys have to see somebody dead for you guys to do something? If my child hurts herself or hurts somebody else, you tell me where I can fill out the next application so I can get that life back. Nowhere.
I experienced that last year, not to the same extent, but my son was having outbursts. When my son turned 16, he came and he stayed with me and I went through a custody battle. That's when I learned more so about my son's behavioral issues. At first I thought that my aunt was treating him bad. And then when he came to stay with me, the same way she said he was acting, he started acting with me. So whenever he didn't get his way, he was put out. He was, on his birthday last year, he's 17, he was admitted to the hospital. And the doctors was like, he didn't need to be there. They was like, he's fine, like he didn't need to be there. So he had outbursts a few more times throughout the year. And the police officers told us they could never take him in. If when he would have his outbursts, they would never arrest him. They put him in a program, but he wasn't mandated to the program. It was voluntary. He did the program. He excelled in the program. It's a counselor. He was saying he liked the counselor. But then he started doing things like, if we tell him to come home at a certain time, he comes when he wants to. Just little things like that. The 4th of was the last time that he actually physically stayed in my home because he had an outburst on me. The officers again said they couldn't do anything. So I have experienced the same thing. And it is disheartening because you have your children that you're telling, like, we can get you help. But then we have the community that's not trying to help because they don't have beds. They don't have, they say like, well, we don't have beds for his situation. We don't have counseling for his situation. If he doesn't want to talk to a counselor, counselors have stopped because he's not communicating with them, expressing how he feels. They'll be like, Dominique, how was your week? Oh, it's great. But we will have already told them, like, he's been acting out. These things have been happening, not listening, being disrespectful, grades dropping. But when he talks to them, oh, everything is fine. So the counselor's like, I don't want to work with him anymore because he's not taking advantage of the situation. He's had all types of counselors, female, men, black, white, Spanish. Now that he's going to be 18, he's doing better, but I do get nervous because when he turns 18, those outbursts that he wasn't getting, the correct treatment for will land him in jail. But like she said, they sometimes, especially in Mecklenburg County, they don't want to help. Like you can't even tell them like, well, this child can't be in the home with other children. They don't care. And it is very disheartening because it's like, what else can you do? The school says the same thing. He's not acting out of school today, so it's not anything that we can do. As long as he's not acting out here, He's fine to come here. But then when you come home, you're causing havoc. And at first I used to be like, oh, my aunt, she's telling a lie. He's not doing this, that, and the third, but he was. Then he flipped it on me and it got physical. And it's just like, I don't want to put my hands on you, but you're going to be a man. And I can't allow you to do that to me because I've already been in relationships where I've been in domestic violence relationship for a long time. I'm not going to allow men to put their hands on me. I came a long way from that. So I'm not going to allow somebody that at birth to put their hands on me. But this community is really sad that we don't have the help that we need when we speak and we voice what's happening in our homes. There's nothing that they will do.
I'm going to let Miss Sabrina talk about, because she was a mental health counselor in Mecklenburg County. But Miss Davidson, what you speak, Miss Davidson said one of our problems is mothers are young, and I guess they cannot help their children due to not having mother wit. She said we had our old mothers, so she's saying that they do not have, the old mothers like what we grew up with, grandmothers that would help. And so, and I'm not saying the same thing as Davis, which me working with me being in the education system, our kids are getting younger and younger and younger. And if they're not taught anything, they can't teach the next generation, which it just goes on from generation to generation to generation. I want to say my generation possibly was probably one of the last generations that really have the grandma that was there and the mother that was there. Or if my mom, my mother was a teen mother as well, but I had my grandma there as well to help and things like that to help, groom me and things like that. As a lady.
In my home, my kids grew up with, in my home, my mama and my grandma helped. And on my dad's side, my grandmother helped, my aunt, she helped. Like, they've had all of that. It's very hard because, for one, you don't expect it. For two, it can feel embarrassing sometimes, which it shouldn't be, but it can, because people do look at situations like, well, she's not doing what she's supposed to be doing. And it's just like, you don't know. And I am a young mother. I'm 37, and I grew up with my son, but I know how to act. And it's different when your child's been taught right and they still have these problems. Like, it's uncontrollable. And when you go to someone to get help and they don't help, like Sabrina, I know that I'm a social worker in Mecklenburg County. And I've talked with her before also, but she knows firsthand my situation with my child. And sometimes it's like, who can we ask?
Can I add on to that, Margie?
Mm-hmm.
What's sad is that everything she said is so true. And unfortunately, the space is limited on the number of PRTFs that is available to families. And another problem is that you got to take into account, like when we talk to, at least in detention, it's hard to decipher. Like, we're having to go through trainings because it's hard to decipher someone having legit suicidal ideation compared to someone who's manipulating. You know what I mean? Like, and it's a fine line between. It's hard to decipher the two. We're on a thing where the moment you see the signs, and when we say the signs, we say the excuse me, somebody walking by with music. But it's one thing that when you see a juvenile saying that, oh, I'm gonna do this to myself, I'm gonna do that to myself, and it's another thing when you go into a bathroom and see a kid hanging from an item versus one that the moment they don't get their way, I want to do this, and this. And you're in here for assaulting your mom, assaulting this person, assaulting this mom. You're yelling at through the phone calls. You're doing this and having temper tantrums versus the ones that they don't do any of that. We'll just go in and see them in the act at that moment. It's kind of hard to decipher. So we treat them all the same, like, to never assume that someone is not in the thing, but it's hard. So I can understand as a parent, and like you said, I wouldn't, McKinney, feel any other type of way because somebody made the comment the other day, oh, I know what the problem is, the parents. And I'm like, that I do not agree.
That's not always true. That's not always true.
I know for a fact.
So let me just say that blaming parents. So that statement, I don't think she's blaming the
No,
parents.
no,
I
no.
think
No,
I'm
what
no,
she's
I'm
no.
talking
saying,
about
We're agreeing with each other. I'm just saying
no,
yeah,
that me and
no,
her
I'm
are
talking
yeah, I
agreeing
about
with
think what
each
she's
other.
saying is the fact
I'm
that
just
we are
saying,
lacking.
no, I'm talking
yeah,
about
but
Yeah,
the
people
what,
do
what,
say
coworker.
that. It's,
go
you
I'm
ahead.
know,
talking about
people
the
do say
coworker.
that. So me and her are agreeing because
Yeah, I was
it's
saying
not
I had a
always true.
coworker to say that.
Yeah.
It's the
Okay.
parents. And I said no because little JoJo mama, she this and this, and I'm like, I think it's sometimes it's just the kids just want to do what they want to do, and I
Yeah.
think they did it once. Oh, well, I'm gonna do this, or they act a certain way, and they've been able to get it from. It may not be mom, maybe it's grandma, maybe it's the dad on that end, and I think the parents get the blame for it is what I'm saying. But these are things we hear. Oh, it's the parents.
Oh, can I say something?
So one thing I want to say, because I'm definitely in the education system and I see it all from both ends. So I've seen where kids cut themselves. And when I found out a kid cut themselves, every time they came in my classroom, I was like, let me see your arm, you know. And I do that. And after a while, they notice that this is a teacher who really cares. And like they walk in like, okay, my arm is good. I'm like, okay, good. I can pat them on the back. But before I became this teacher, it was my first year teacher, 2004. And they had already told me about this one student. So, I didn't go into talking to the student about the situation. I just kind of waited. But this kid ended up noticing that this one teacher was one of the teachers that cared. And it wasn't just to, and I didn't do it in front of the kids. I was just like, let me talk to you, okay, today, things like that. So they had somebody because they didn't have that at home. The other thing I had was a student who we found out that she was a cutter. She stopped cutting herself, and I noticed she was in the bathroom for a while. She went in the bathroom. So one day I just went in there and I saw her combing her hair over. But what she started doing was pulling her hair out instead of cutting herself because they saw it, they could see it. She started pulling her hair out to hurt herself. And I just started talking to her like, baby girl, I noticed that, we talked in middle school. So, you should really be balding in middle school. Like, baby, what's going on with your hair? And she started telling me a little bit, and she was in foster care, and she was dealing with this and dealing with that in foster care. And she was telling me about her dreams, and we just sat and talked. But when I went to talk to one of the counselors or someone who was over the kids, it's almost like they brush her under. Oh, that's just her. She's just like that. Like, no, this young lady is pulling her hair out. Like she needs some help. Get her some help. And they just kind of brush it under the rug. And now in the school system, counselors can't tell teachers what's going on with the student. So, if the student is a runner, if the student is a cutter or what so have you, we won't never know. So I send the child to the bathroom. The child may do something to himself, but we never knew that the child can't go to the bathroom by himself. So we don't get all the information that we need. I don't think they have all of the resources. Even with me being a behavior health counselor when I was in intensive in-home behavior health counselor in Richmond, I just noticed that they just didn't have the resources. And now moving to North Carolina, they don't have intensive in-home, which actually would help if you can catch them early. You can help them as an adult. I don't see that here, the resources that is needed. Can anyone speak on that? I think Serta had anything she wanted to say? Get down to, we might have to make this part two parts. All right.
Yeah,
Did
I
anybody
think
have
Miss
anything they want to say
Davidson,
on that?
I think Miss Davidson was trying to say something at one point. And I can
Okay.
clearly follow up after she speaks.
Hello?
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hello? Can you hear
Yes,
me
ma'am.
now?
We can.
Okay. What I was trying to say, we don't have a village.
Yeah.
We don't have a village. Now I'm going on 60, going on 68. Okay. So when I was young, I knew if I walked down the street, someone was looking and watching, you know what I'm saying? And there were teachers that were concerned or passionate about whatever you were going through. If I went to church, I knew who I could talk to. There were resources. There were plenty of resources out there prior to propositions that deleted all these programs. But I was just trying to say we had a village. We don't have a village anymore. If it's like I could go if I didn't talk to mom, I knew I could go talk to somebody else that I could maybe relate to. They don't feel comfortable because they're not trusting anybody. They can't go to the church anymore because of all the gossip and all the mess going on. You know what I'm saying? If they go to them, they're gonna talk about them like a dog, bring their family down. And I'm just going by experience. That's all I was trying to say. I didn't mean no harm.
I think the village has been broken a little bit deeper than that. You can't go to church without without someone possibly touching your child inappropriately.
Right.
You can't go to school without someone properly touching. You can't, you used to be able to watch the neighbor be able to watch your house. You got to watch the neighbor now. So it's almost like the village has been broken because we just don't know. And this has actually been going on for years. We just haven't been talking about it. It's coming out now. But this has been going on for years. You have the village inside the village where, uncle is touching someone and everyone know, people know that they won't say anything because they don't want is walking around with, I know my uncle or whoever has touched me inappropriately. And then, but I see him at the family reunion, everybody talking to him like everything's okay. So how as a child do you deal with that internally? When you can't go to someone and talk to them and they won't do anything about it. But yet still, again, you see this person being the uncle of the year or what have you, everyone knows and no one's talking about it, or you see mom is, with this, your stepdad, and your stepdad is doing something inappropriately, but she's not leaving. How do a child deal with that? So I think the village is just being broken beyond, even past my time. But, it's just kind of scary out there. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
That's
why.
It's time to, I don't like to use the word curses, but it's time to break generational habits. Our family and our ancestors, they did what they knew to do to get by or what they were accustomed to. I try to tell people, when you know better, you do better. So now it's up to us to get the word out. Yeah, I have my own business. I'm a professional life coach and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I don't care about what my hourly fee is because God is going to take care of me. I would rather help someone that's going through a mental health crisis than to tell you I charge $100 an hour. Because at the end of the day, I'm connecting with someone and saving a life. The family member that passed away, death by suicide, I blame myself because I was the auntie that if I saw you and I knew something was wrong, we're going to talk about it now or we're going to talk about it later. I didn't show up for a family event. So I felt like because I didn't show up, I blame myself years, even before I became a social worker, that if I would have been there, I could have recognized something. I could have said something. I could have felt something. So now what I do to make his life not be in vain, I do suicide prevention. I do mental health. That's my way of giving back to the community and saying, if I can just reach one person, I can make a difference. Because we wasn't aware. There wasn't a sign. So it's just, making a connection with someone. I tell people all the time, you never know what difference you will make in somebody's life. Say good morning when you see someone, because that may be the only good morning they have got for the day.
Right. That's right.
I was on the elevator. I was working in corporate America. I was on the elevator and this lady, I would see her often. She got on the elevator and she had her head down and I said, good morning. And she looked at me and she smiled and she was like, good morning. So later on that day, we got back on the elevator. We were going down for lunch, and she said, thank you. And I said, for what? And she said, you spoke to me this morning. She said, I was contemplating suicide. She said, but you took the time enough to speak to me. It was just something in your voice, and it just was so inviting. And it just made me think about, well, you know, she's bubbly, she's bright. She didn't have to talk to me, but she had a conversation with me. So I changed the dynamics of her day. I made her feel better just because I said good morning to her. So I carried that with, and I try to tell each one of my clients, my patients, you matter to me. And sometimes I get that look like, why do I matter to you? You don't even know me. You matter to me because you're human. I need you to be here. You need to be here. Everything can be a roller coaster. And I tell them, always find the good in every situation. You may be in this hospital on this unit right now, but the situation, the good in the situation is you woke up this morning because somebody didn't wake up this morning.
Right.
So start with that. You talked about being in situations where someone touched someone inappropriately, and you know everybody is looking at that. That child grows up into an adult with underlying issues, and they become protective. If they have kids, they become overprotective of their kids, or they may become promiscuous, looking for love in all the wrong places, or thinking like, well, what was wrong with me? Why did I get targeted? And then it starts a spiral of someone becoming high functioning, someone maybe being on drugs, someone being promiscuous. It causes a lot of things. Or either that person can go hard and drive and turn their situation around and be beneficial in other ways to help people in some similar situations. It all depends on what drive you have, what's your passion and your purpose. And some things, when people have been dealt with trauma, they take that negative and turn it into a positive and have a drive to reach out to help other individuals. But knowing that we need to reach our community now and say, you know what, this is what our ancestors and our grandparents and our parents did. They were just doing the best that they could with what they had. But you know what? That's fine and well too. But now, if you can connect with some resources, a lot of people don't have insurance, but they have a job. Well, your job has employee assistance programs. That's free. Take those 13 sessions and get connected. That's free. The system is messed up. I'm a mental health.
What do you think we can do to help a parent who is dealing with it, help a teacher who's seeing it? And this is for the whole panel. When we talk, because we get ready to, we might have to make this a part 2 if y'all would like to. We might have to make this part 2 because I don't even think we dug in, you know, as much as we can, because we haven't even gotten to bullying and intervention. What are some things that you think a parent can do to help their child, or what are some signs, if there's any? What do you think that a parent can do? I want to say better, but what are some things that they can do to help their child, and also with our educators as well, because we need to talk about that more as well.
Start with the school. Start with the email. Put the principal on the email, the school counselor, and the school teacher. Say, I have identified some things and I have some concerns, because they have clinicians that will go out to the school. They will pull the child out of the school, and they will have therapy sessions done at the school during the school year. Ask me how I know, because I had my grandson, and I emailed the school. I emailed the principal. He wasn't, my grandson was never acting out. It was just some family dynamics that were going on that I felt like we're gonna nip this in the bud. And it was an unbiased person that he could talk to, who he could tell things that was going on in a safe space. The child has to know that they're in a safe space. But by all means, parents, get involved. Get involved. The school works for you. Okay, your tax dollars pay the educators and pay the clinicians. They don't pay them enough. I am going to say that. But But use those are your resources, and those resources are free to a certain extent. Now I do remember, like if they get Medicare or I mean Medicaid or Health Choice, I don't know if they use Health Choice anymore. They'll ask for the number or whatever, but it's still, the child is still at school. You ain't got to take off work. You ain't got to go take them anywhere. They will come to the school and they will get that, guidance in school. Even through COVID or break, if the appointments were scheduled, they will schedule Zoom visits. Start there. Use your EAP at your job. You can get counseling for yourself as well as your family through EAP. I tell people, start with your free things first. Go there first. And I had someone say, I don't want the job. No, it's good that your job know that you're having a mental health crisis. Because guess what? There's 13 weeks of FMLA that you can take that will give you job security. And I always tell people, I used to deal with healthcare, insurance and billing. Pay that little extra few cents to get some short-term disability, because you don't never know what's going to happen. It's best to have 60% of your check than 100% when you dealing with, you're going to have some income coming in. So just pay the extra. It's less than $1 every pay period to get your short-term disability. Those little things, because if you don't know, you just don't know. Knowledge is free. Sometimes people don't want to tell you stuff, but if someone asks me, I'm going to tell them. These are some of the things that you do. Get some life insurance through your job. If you have a job, get some life insurance. We don't know what's going to happen the way this world is. The ups and downs.
I never thought about having life insurance for that. Thinking about that. So that's definitely some good information. Miss McKinney, what can our parents do? Or and on your end, what can educators do? Especially being an educator, what can I do better?
I would say educators have to be warm to their students. Make your students feel like, that they can be themselves around you. They don't have to be like so perfect that they can't talk to you or tell you something. They don't have to shy away from you. But communicate. If you're an educator, if you're a friend's mom, and if you're warm to your children, you see a child coming to your home, and you kind of catch the signs. Because I had let a friend's child come and stay with me because I felt like she wasn't getting that. She talked to me more than she would have talked to her mother, but there were things with the parenting that were different. But I still talk to her. She doesn't live with me anymore, but I still talk to her. I still text her all the time. How was your day? How was school? Is there anything you want to talk about? Because my mama talked to me when I was growing up. And I know friends that parents did not talk to them at all. And it's a big difference when you communicate. My mama, I'm 37. She's still always in my business. She's still asking what's going on. She checks on me. Anything, you can always tell when something's wrong. Sometimes my dad is the same way. He might call me out the blue, and I don't talk to him as much, but I can be having a bad day. He'll call me out the blue. I was just thinking about you. And I communicate more with my mom, but I can always tell, like, dang, like, did he know I was having a bad day? And it feels good to have that. But my mama, I talk to her about every day. I talk to my grandma every day. I'm calling, I'm telling all my business. They were like, you took your grandma, your mama, everything. I'm like, because if something's wrong with me, they're going to know something was wrong. I tell my kids, you don't want to talk to me, call grandma or call Nan. And they're going to tell her, and sometimes mom's like, she told me such and such, and she didn't want to tell you. And I'm like, why they ain't want to tell me? And she's like, they probably think you're going to flip out. And I'm like, but I'm their mama. Like, I talk to them about stuff I would have not dared talk to you about growing up, but now I tell you everything. But yeah, you have to talk to your kids. Sometimes I talk to their teachers. My son, like I told you, he came out to me that he was gay. And he had a counselor at school. He was in middle school. They would go get him and talk to him. I was like, they don't have to tell me anything, but I just want to know that he's okay, because he'll talk to you, but he may not want to talk to me about stuff. But put him in positive programs where they can communicate. Like my son was really close with his art teacher. She brought something out of him that before he was just to himself. He didn't want to be bothered because he knew that he was changing, and I might not understand. But since he met the teacher, like they're like best friends. They talk about everything. He can tell her anything. She don't tell me, but I know that he has somebody that's a safe space. And it feels good to have people that are warm that your child can go to. Like my daughter, she would tell her cheer coaches sometimes. She wanted to tell me, or she'd tell her other friends' mom. Sometimes they'll come back and tell me, but sometimes they'll keep it. Like as long as it's not too bad, they might not tell it, but they'll be like, if it's something wrong, they'll tell like you shouldn't be doing that. But I can tell she's in a good mood when she comes back. But when it comes to my kids, because they're all teenagers, I talk to them. When I see their friends, I talk to them. I tell them like, life is going to go by fast. If you don't want to talk to your parents, you can always talk to me, because I'm like, when I was growing up in my house growing up, now that I have kids, my parents are more lenient to the conversations with my children than they were with me. Some stuff I wouldn't talk to them about growing up, but my kids will talk to them about it. And I want my kids to talk to me about everything, even if it's bad. I want them to communicate with me, because I don't want them to commit suicide. I don't want them to feel like brother would have talked to somebody. He would still be here, and he'll be 40-something years old. We'll be growing up watching our kids, because he missed his son's whole life. He's 20 years old now. And it's just like, I'm in my mind, like, what could we have done? But like I said, signs to me, I didn't notice him. I don't know if my family noticed it. He was the part, like, and I wanted him to be that. I wanted him to be growing up with me, so it's always good to communicate. If you see signs, ask. You don't have to embarrass them, but just ask, like, how was your day? You want to talk about it? And just, if they don't want to talk about it, give them the resources. Like, it's people that you can talk to. Like she was saying about the jobs. When I was going through the custody battle with my son, my manager came to me. If you're not having a good day, there are these resources, and there's all types of counselors. They have counselors that show racism, like, you don't explain it to me. And my daughter have a counselor, like, because I went through a divorce. I thought I seen some things in my child, wanted to make sure she would want to talk to somebody. She was like, don't be embarrassed about, having someone that you can talk to, because you always have to remember, sometimes with your family, they're not going to give you the advice that you need, or they're not going to give you that listening ear that you need. And that counselor, they're neutral to the situation. They don't really know you. So they can give you advice that you may not get, because sometimes your family will tell you, your child is doing this, that, and the third, and you need to handle it this way. And it's not always, in some situations, you cannot use discipline to fix it. And a counselor will give you different skills that you can use, and different things that you can think about or write down, like communication. Like I said, my son was in a program, and the teacher, one of his things was, what's your child's love language? Do you know the love language for each one of your children? And it was like, some kids, they just want to be nurtured. Some kids' love language is when you spend on them, like different things like that. And I had to sit back and think, like, all of my children are different, and it made me feel good that he used that, because when you think of love language, you think of adults. You don't always think of children. But there are a lot of things that kids don't know they have.
Can I say real quick too? Can I say real quick? It's one of the things that you brought up. I don't know if you can hear me, but it's one thing that you brought up that I think was very important for me, was the fact that you said he was in middle school, and then he came out and said that he was gay. Well, middle school, I work in middle school. This is the time where the kids are changing. They're trying to find themselves. They're dealing with, halfway become still elementary, but still trying to be kind of high schoolish in a way. Trying to be a little grownish, learning themselves, puberty hitting. So they already emotionally are just all over the place. On top of, now you add on the fact that he now had to come to his mom and say that I'm gay. So, and then once you say that, it's not him he has to deal with, that he's thinking. He got the family stigma he's thinking about. Then he got the school system, the friends at the school. Some of his friends may be like, I don't want to hang with you now. So you now have all of that on top of the fact that you have all these hormonal things changing. And that alone can be, like, really, to me, can be explosive for a kid.
Yeah.
Especially when you still have the stigma going on with that. And then, sometimes, I caught myself saying that when a kid say, I'm in love. I said, love? What you know about love on this paying. I'm stressed. Stressed about what, child? You don't have no bills. But then we don't think about what the kid is dealing with behind closed doors, what they need. And so we just have to definitely make sure that we hone in on our kids in middle school. So
Mhm.
Miss Rosalind, because we gotta move on because we have to do a part 2 of this. Miss Rosalind, what would you say? You know,
Yes.
how do we, talk to our teachers? How do we talk to our parents to be able to watch those signs?
Well, I would like to make a clarification, Ms. McLean, because I don't want the audience to get confused. I wanted to clarify that whenever I was talking about my personal experience with the issues that I have with the barriers, that I have encountered along the
Right.
way trying to get my adolescent assistance, and what Ms. McKinney, also talked about. We are talking about cases in which the child has received the initial help to be stabilized, but what happens after that, what happens whenever it evolves. So I want everyone to please, 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 if your child is having any types of any signs, of suicide, if it's expressing, suicidal ideations, to please reach out and use your resources. You can call 988, or they also have a text line. They will be connected with a counselor 24 hours. And if your child is currently in a crisis, what they will do, they will find out where you're located at, and they will send a team to you. Okay, so I don't want you to be discouraged, based on what we have discussed. We were talking about just cases where the child have received that initial assistance, but what happens after the child has been stabilized, but the issues increase. And regarding what I will say to educator and parents, I will say to the parents first, don't personalize your child's issues. What I mean by that is, most of the times parents will not seek assistance for the child because, well, I'm a good parent, I'm doing everything that I can, there is nothing wrong with you. I'm giving you food, shelter, you don't want for anything. There's nothing wrong with you, and so they kind of like personalize it, but sometimes it's not about you. It's about what your child is going through. I have heard over and over again from other panelists is you have to create a safe environment. So most teenagers, they feel like they don't have a voice, because we as parents, we have been their voice for so long. So listen to them. And if they express any concern, remember, it's not about you. It's about what they are going through and their experiences. To educators, what I will say is, I know it's very, very stressful for you guys. I know that the education system is asking so much, of you, to the point that you're struggling to perform your tasks, and meet all these requirements that the education system is asking for you. But I will say, I think, get back to the human part of you, and listen, because most of the time, that interaction that they have, some children, the only positive interaction that they have during the day is with you.
Right.
Because sometimes we don't know what's going on at home.
Right.
I have known of cases where the child will go to school, will come back home and get into a cage, adult cage. So we don't know what's going on in their home. So exactly. I will say try to be present. And I think and also seek assistance for yourself. Seek assistance for yourself.
Thank you for saying that, because that's one of the things I was going to say was, I think with a lot of us teachers, it's not the fact that for some of us don't care. It's just we have so much put on us, so many hats that we fill in. On top of, we got our own life and things that's happening as well. So, like I said, with me losing family members after family members, but I still have to come in and smile and then take on the problems of the kids. And then I have to try to take that off, come back, put on what I'm dealing with. It becomes too much. And so sometimes we just do it, even during our planning, we like, I don't want to talk to anybody right now. I just want time to breathe for myself, but it may be a time. So for me, I always have my door open. Anytime, a kid needs me, they always in my room. Sometimes it's kids that I don't even teach that's always in my room. And so, even with my students, they talk to me about they can't talk to their parents. So I just actively listen and just let them express themselves. And then I say, well, if you can't talk to your parent, if you think your parent won't listen, because we got to think about this is the way we was raised. What we say doesn't matter. Sometimes if we try to express how we felt, I'm talking old school, we looked at as talking back or what so have you, trying to be smart. But what I told my students was, okay, if you feel like the parents won't listen because you feel like your voice would get too high and they feel like you're being disrespectful, write it in a letter and let them read it. So you would know how they feel. Just put it in a letter. I don't think she's gonna I said just try it and just give it to them. They're gonna read it. Because I get it. For me, sometimes when I talk and I get excited, my voice get loud, I feel like I'm yelling. I'm not really angry. It's just I'm just like overexcited about what I'm saying and trying to get my point across. While kids can be the same way, and the parents would see it as you being disrespectful. So I just say, just put it in a letter. And so, and then I have it where the kids can talk to me, and I let them know up front. Whatever's between me and you is between me and you. If it's something I feel is harmful to you, I'm going to have to let someone know. And those are the things. And sometimes they just go ahead and let me know it. So I think what you said was very good. Let's see if any of our other panelists want to say anything, because I know we're kind of past our time. And if y'all want to move to a part 2, because we haven't even gotten to bullying. We haven't even gotten to the interventions yet, but if you want a part 2, we can have a part 2. Y'all let me know if you want to come. Okay.
Part 2 is needed, Margie.
Part 2 is needed.
I think our panelists would agree. Part 2 is gonna be needed.
Yeah, I think we need to go beyond, talking about certain things beyond just the month. A lot of times we focus on this because this is the awareness month, but this stuff is happening every day. It's happening in 1 month of September. Suicide is happening every day, if not every minute. I want to make sure that I read up on the stats of how many, how often this is happening. But we see enough of this going on. And even in just, I had a friend who suicide, and I didn't even know I was going through anything because I had just saw. And I went to homecoming and she was excited. I said, come up here with me. You can come and stay with me until you get on your feet. And in March, I get a call at my job, she, shot herself. And I'm thinking like, wait a minute, she was just so happy. I don't understand. So in between a month, I'm thinking like, what happened in between a month? Because she was coming up here ready. She had got the job and everything. So our kids are going through that type of stuff. And, I really want us to be able to talk to the parents on how to see it, how to watch their kids. Like you said, I don't think that enough of us sit around the table anymore and eat dinner and actually talk about what your day is. So my kids, once dinner is what so have you, mom is here, dad is somewhere else, and we don't sit and really talk about how the day was. So I thank you for coming. I appreciate it. If you can just go around and give me how someone can get in contact with you if they need that help. Miss Rosalind.
Oh, yes. So let me go ahead and cheese and crackers. I need to give it 1 second. I apologize. Let me hurry up. So, so I'm licensed in North Carolina. If somebody would like to get in touch with me, my phone number is 910-759-5994. That's 910-759-5994. You could just text me and I will return the phone call. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mackey?
I am Refocused to Redefine LLC. I am on Facebook and Instagram. I can be reached by phone at 704-338-27. Listen at me. I'm rattling off the wrong number. 704-338-2479. I'm currently in Rockville, Maryland. I do have space available for after hours, 5 p.m. up until 11, Monday through Friday. Saturday, pretty much all day till 11 p.m. and Sunday after 3 p.m. I usually gear towards after hours virtual calls. And I do have clients in the Maryland and the DMV area as well. But if I cannot be of service to you, I will do a referral to get you to whoever you need to get to see. And if you can't reach me, get in contact with Miss Margie McLean and she can get in contact with me.
All right, Ms. McKinney, someone just needs someone to talk to from is okay.
They can message me on my Gmail at McKinney, which is MC.
McKinney,
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I'm gonna type it. Let's see. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. They can message me on my Gmail at McKinney. It's MC KINNEY 8003@gmail.com. Or they can contact me on my cell phone and they can text me at 980-833-4581. I can type it in the chat if y'all like me to.
Fine. All right, we got Miss Sturdivant. She has a organization. She can tell us a little bit about her organization as well, if you would like.
Yes, my organization is 3E LLC, Equity and Empowerment Through Education. And as mentioned, I'm an educator, so I do the consulting on the side, but most recently I've written 2 books that I'm hoping that people will use the books to facilitate conversations such as these with students. The first book is Somebody Told You a Lie, so it gets at stereotypes and just some of the things that our students fall prey to. A lot of you talked about social media and those influences, and how students just kind of get derailed believing a lie. So that book sort of addresses that. And then My Heart Leaks Ink is the second book. It basically is 3 parts, and it kind of shows my evolution or development. I definitely had some low points in my life. Somebody mentioned schizophrenia, and my mother had schizophrenia. So I share some of just my struggles of being a daughter of a parent who had schizophrenia, just some of those challenges of trying to navigate life on my own. So just things like that is what I try to do. I'm working to start a nonprofit and just get funding to be able to do more free events similar to this and just to really give back, because people are struggling, especially our students, and that's just my passion to try to help them out. I did want to share that 2 things we're doing in Wake County is restorative practices and community resilience model, but that'll probably be better suited for actual interventions. And I apologize because I've been cooking at the same time with all of this going on. But the community resilience model and restorative practices could be some things I could share during the intervention talk if you all do continue to do this series. But you all had a lot to share and did an excellent job, and I do appreciate your time. Thank you. And I'll put my website in the chat.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And so when I leave from work, if you cooking like this every day, okay. Thank you so much. All right. So thank you. So whenever, just let me know and I'll just drive right on over there after work. So thank you so much, everyone. Ms. Davidson, do you have any last words that you would like to say? Make sure we get ready.
No, ma'am. Everything was awesome. Thank you.
Okay. So I just want to thank everyone for being here. I just want to go ahead and, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we're going to go ahead. I don't know if you can see this, but I just want to make sure I make a couple of announcements before we leave, just to see what some of the things we do here in Margie McLean Foundation besides these programs. Just to let you know, we are a 501c3 organization, and you can follow us on Instagram, foundation.org. And our purpose is to build, which is a one-day program. We have our Rainbow Story Time, which is the second Tuesdays now at 6 o'clock on Zoom. We have our ladies rites of passage as well. Two more programs that we are getting ready to implement is our teen hygiene program, and we will be making sure that our team get hygiene packets. We also are partnering with the organization where we will talk to teens about the harm of vaping. And we also are looking to do a feeding program where we can give our kids and families food when they leave for the Christmas holiday, because we do know some of our kids, the only meal they get is when they are in school. So we want to make sure that they are taken care of when they leave for the holiday. For our next Rainbow Storytime, we'll be having Miss Jessica Jones. She'll be coming on to read her book, Tina Learns to Cope with Anger. I will say we started off with about 5 kids. We are now in 5 countries. We have kids watching us from Australia, Liberia, Canada, Maldives, UK, and this is and it also help our authors to get their books in these different countries as well. So if you're able to come on and read, or if you have any children that would like to be a part of it, please let me know. Part 4 of our domestic violence event, which is When Love Hits Home, Chronicles of Domestic Violence. We will be having Miss Latanya Duncan. She will be coming on to talk to us about child to parent abuse. So she will be coming to talk about her experience of how she was being abused by her child. And matter of fact, the lack of help that she was receiving and resources that she received to be able to help her child. And so if you are interested in joining this as well, please let me know and I'll send this information to you. But we will be live on my page. I think I'll be out of Facebook jail by then, and we'll be live on that page to be able to watch it and ask any questions that you have. Also, November 18th through the 20th, we have Diva Self-Care and Holistic Wellness Retreat in Myrtle Beach. Right now, we have a special, which is $189.99. But this is for us to, like we said, a lot of us are coming home with things on us. We are dealing with things from our past. We are dealing with things from our childhood. So this is an opportunity for us women to come together and to learn some self-care strategies to get that holistic wellness. And you see our speakers here. We also will have a nice fashion show. We're going to do some therapy, paint therapy as well. Showing you how you can become a cocoon and move into this butterfly to let things release. And so that's what we're going to be doing here, is releasing those things that are holding us back and just loving, living, and letting go. Also, just wanted to also introduce the Job Us Liberia. We do partner with an organization in Liberia that helps train kids with career, helping them be successful in their career. We actually will be moving. Hopefully they want me to pilot a program to help with entrepreneurship. But right now, we'll say they graduated about 25 to 30 kids just recently. We're looking at getting them some internships. And I am also looking to start a scholarship program for these kids as well. So looking forward to this growing. And also we have the Black Business Expo, which myself and Sabrina have been a part of. Our next expo will be in November. And I talk about social media. I talk about how you can take your passion and turn it into a paycheck. I talk about life coaching and how we can market that. So please, if you will have a business and you would like to speak, let me know. And also follow me at Chemistry Fashion Boutique too. This is my also my for-profit organization, where we are event planner as well, notary model, yoga instructor. This is another way that you can get in contact with me as well. And again, follow me at Chemistry Fashion Boutique too. You can also follow me at Margie McLean Foundation. on Instagram, Twitter, and now our YouTube as well. Again, thank you, ladies. I look forward to having you next week. Thank you for your expertise. I hope to have you next month. We'll just move this on to next month, and I hope to see you at our domestic violence program. Thank you, and I appreciate everything you have said. Thank you. Have a good night.